I never thought my marriage of 12 years would end with a text message, but there I was, standing in our kitchen at 7:30 in the morning, holding Danielle's phone while she showered upstairs, staring at words that made my stomach drop to the floor. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this and comment the city you're watching from. He works late today. That was it. 5 simple words that shouldn't have meant anything. Danielle had left her phone on the counter when she rushed upstairs, and it had buzzed with this message from someone named Marcus. I wouldn't have looked, except the name seemed familiar somehow, nagging at the back of my mind. Marcus. Where had I heard that name? Then it hit me like a freight train. Marcus Webb, my business partner of 15 years, the man I'd trusted with half my construction company, the guy who'd been my best man at our wedding. My hand started shaking as I read the message again. He works late today. Not Arthur works late today or your husband works late today. Just he. Like they'd been talking about me regularly enough that I'd become a pronoun. I heard the shower still running upstairs. Danielle always took long showers, at least 20 minutes. I had time to think, but my brain felt like it was moving through thick mud. How long had this been going on? How many late work days had actually been cover for something else? The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was realizing that tomorrow was our biggest day in years. We had a meeting with Peterson Industries, a contract worth $2.3 million that would set our company up for the next decade. Marcus and I had been preparing for months. The presentation was perfect, the numbers were solid, and George Peterson himself was flying in from Chicago. I set the phone back down exactly where Danielle had left it, my mind racing. 15 years of partnership, 12 years of marriage, both relationships built on trust that apparently meant nothing. The shower stopped upstairs. I heard Danielle moving around, probably doing her hair and makeup routine that took another 30 minutes. Enough time for me to figure out what to do with this information that was burning a hole in my chest. I walked to my office and pulled out the Peterson contract files. Every detail we'd worked on together, every strategy we'd discussed, every number we'd calculated. Had Marcus been sharing information with Danielle this whole time? Was she involved in the business side of whatever this was? My phone rang. Marcus. Hey, buddy. His voice sounded exactly the same as always. Confident, friendly, completely normal. Just wanted to confirm you're good for the Peterson meeting tomorrow. 9 sharp, right? Yeah, I managed. 9 sharp. Great. This is our big break, Arthur. After tomorrow, we'll be playing in the major leagues. Our big break. I almost laughed, but nothing about this felt funny. Marcus, can I ask you something? Sure, what's up? Have you talked to Danielle lately? About the business, I mean. There was a pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. Danielle, no, why would I talk to Danielle about business? She doesn't really understand construction anyway. The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly, like he'd been practicing. No reason. Just wondering if she'd mentioned anything about tomorrow. You know how wives worry about big meetings. Yeah. Sarah's the same way, always asking if I'm nervous. But we've got this, Arthur. Peterson's going to love what we've put together. After I hung up, I sat in my office staring at blueprints that suddenly felt meaningless. 15 years of building this company together, starting in my garage with nothing but a truck and some tools, working 18-hour days to get our first contracts, trusting each other with everything. Danielle came downstairs 45 minutes later, looking beautiful as always. Her blonde hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last month. Morning, honey. She kissed my cheek. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Big day tomorrow. The Peterson meeting, right? You and Marcus must be so excited. The way she said his name. So casual, so natural, like she'd been saying it a lot lately. Yeah, we've worked hard for this opportunity. She poured herself coffee and started making toast. The same morning routine we'd had for years, except now, everything felt like a performance. What time will you be home tomorrow night? She asked. Probably late. Marcus and I want to celebrate if things go well. Might grab dinner after. That sounds nice, you two deserve it. I watched her spread jam on her toast, and for a moment, I could pretend nothing had changed, that the woman I'd loved for 12 years was still the woman standing in front of me, that my business partner hadn't betrayed 15 years of friendship, that tomorrow's meeting was still the beginning of something great, instead of potentially the end of everything. But then her phone buzzed on the counter, and I saw her glance at it quickly. Her face didn't change, but something in her eyes did. a flicker of something that looked almost like guilt. "Work stuff," she said, not that I'd asked. I nodded and finished my coffee, my mind already working on a plan. Because if there was one thing 15 years in construction had taught me, it was that when you discover structural damage, you don't ignore it. You investigate how deep it goes, and then you decide whether to repair or rebuild. Tomorrow's meeting with Peterson Industries was still happening. But tonight, I was going to find out exactly what kind of damage I was dealing with. As Danielle kissed me goodbye and left for work, I realized that the text message had done more than reveal a betrayal. It had given me a choice. I could play the victim and watch my life fall apart, or I could take control and fight for what I'd built. I chose to fight. That evening I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched my own house like a detective investigating a crime scene. Danielle was at her book club, which I now realized might not be a book club at all, giving me 3 hours to find answers. I started with her home office, the small room where she managed our household finances and did her freelance graphic design work. Everything looked normal at first glance. Computer, printer, the usual papers scattered across her desk. But when I opened the filing cabinet, I found something that made my blood run cold. A folder labeled MW Consulting, tucked behind our tax documents. Marcus Webb's initials. Inside were documents I'd never seen before. Articles of incorporation for a new company formed just 6 months ago. MW Consulting LLC. Marcus Webb as president, Danielle Cole Webb as vice president. Danielle Cole Webb. She was already using his last name. The business address was a P.O. box, but the nature of the business was listed as Construction Consulting and Project Management. They'd formed a competing company while I was working my tail off to build ours. I kept digging through the papers, each document worse than the last. Client contact lists that looked suspiciously similar to our current customer database. Project proposals for work that looked exactly like jobs we'd been pursuing. Bid summaries that included pricing information only Marcus and I should have known. They weren't just having an affair, they were systematically stealing my business. My hands were shaking as I photographed every document with my phone. 12 years of marriage, and Danielle had been planning to leave me for my business partner while taking half my company with them. The worst part was a handwritten note in Danielle's writing, paperclipped to a contract proposal. AC. Expects Peterson decision by Friday. Will know Thursday night if successful. If yes, timeline moves to weekend execution. AC Arthur Cole. They were talking about me like I was a target, not a husband and partner. I heard a car in the driveway and quickly put everything back exactly where I'd found it. Danielle was home early. I made it to the living room just as she walked in, my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "How was book club?" I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. "Good. We're reading this mystery about a woman who discovers her husband has been lying to her for years." She set down her purse and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Funny how fiction can feel so real sometimes. The irony was so thick I almost choked on it. "What's the book called?" "The Truth About Trust." It's about how people can live double lives right under their spouse's nose. Really makes you think about how well we actually know the people closest to us. I stared at her, wondering if this was some kind of test. Was she trying to see if I knew something, or was she just being cruel? "Sounds intense," I managed. "Oh, it is. The husband in the book thinks he's so smart, but his wife has been planning her exit strategy for months. She knows about his secret business deals, his hidden accounts, everything, and when she finally makes her move, he never sees it coming." My blood turned to ice. This wasn't about a book, this was a warning, or maybe a threat. The next morning I called in sick to work for the first time in 5 years. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with before tomorrow's Peterson meeting. If Marcus and Danielle were planning something, I had less than 24 hours to figure out what. I drove to our office building and parked across the street, watching. Marcus arrived at his usual time, 8:15. Nothing seemed different about his routine, but at 10:30, a woman I didn't recognize showed up and went straight to his office. She stayed for 2 hours. When she left, I followed her. She drove to a law office downtown, Henderson, Mitchell and Associates, the same firm that had handled my divorce attorney consultation 3 years ago when Danielle and I went through that rough patch. I'd never hired them, but they knew about our assets, our business structure, everything. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed was devastating. I spent the afternoon at the county clerk's office researching public records. MW Consulting had applied for several business licenses that would directly compete with us. They'd filed papers to operate in the same specialty areas where we did our most profitable work. But the real shock came when I found the property records. Marcus had put his house up for sale 2 weeks ago. Not just listed it, but accepted an offer. Cash sale, closing set for next Friday, 3 days after the Peterson meeting. He was planning to disappear. That evening, I sat in my truck outside Danielle's yoga class and watched her walk into the Marriott Hotel instead. 20 minutes later, Marcus's BMW pulled into the same parking lot. I waited. 2 hours later, they came out together. Danielle was carrying a manila envelope and they were talking intensely about something. At one point, Marcus handed her what looked like a USB drive. I followed them to a coffee shop, parked where I could see through the window, and watched them spread papers across their table. Even from a distance, I could see they were reviewing documents, pointing at specific sections, making notes. They looked like business partners planning a major deal, which I realized is exactly what they were. When I got home that night, Danielle was already in bed, reading the same mystery book she'd mentioned. "How was yoga?" I asked. "Challenging. Really worked up a sweat tonight. I think I'm finally getting stronger, more flexible, ready for whatever comes next." She wasn't even trying to hide the double meanings anymore. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, putting together the timeline. The affair had started at least 6 months ago when they formed the company, maybe longer. They'd been using Pillow Talk to share business information. Every strategy session Marcus and I had, every client meeting, every financial detail, had been reported back to Danielle. She'd been feeding him information about our household finances, our personal assets, everything she had access to as my wife, and he'd been sharing client lists, project details, bid strategies. Together they'd built a competing business using my own resources against me. Tomorrow's Peterson meeting wasn't just about landing a big contract anymore, it was about survival. Because if Peterson Industries signed with us, Danielle and Marcus would somehow turn that success into their launching pad. If we lost the contract, they'd still have their backup plan already in motion. Either way, they'd been positioning themselves to win while ensuring I lost everything. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated me. For 12 years, Danielle had seen me as the steady, predictable husband who worked hard and trusted completely. For 15 years, Marcus had seen me as the reliable partner who handled the business while he schmozzed with clients. What they didn't realize was that you don't build a successful construction company from nothing without learning how to handle betrayal, deception, and people who try to steal what you've built. Tomorrow's Peterson meeting was still happening, but instead of being their victory celebration, it was going to become the beginning of their downfall, because I had my own plans now. The Peterson meeting went exactly as planned. Marcus and I presented our proposal with the same professional partnership we'd maintained for 15 years. George Peterson loved our design concepts, our timeline, and our pricing. By noon, we had a signed contract worth $2.3 million. Marcus was practically glowing as we shook hands with Peterson in the parking lot. "This calls for a celebration," he said, clapping me on the back. "How about dinner tonight? Just the two of us, like old times. Actually, I promised Danielle I'd be home early tonight. Maybe tomorrow?" Something flickered across his face. Disappointment or relief? Of course. Family first, right? I drove home with the signed contract in my briefcase, knowing it might be the last legitimate business Marcus and I ever conducted together. The Peterson deal was real, but everything else was about to change. When I walked into the house, I found Danielle in the kitchen, but she wasn't alone. My stepdaughter Emma was sitting at the counter, her school backpack still slung over her shoulder. At 17, Emma was everything good about my life with Danielle. Smart, funny, and the closest thing to a daughter I'd ever had. "Dad!" She jumped up and hugged me. "Mom said you had a big meeting today. How did it go?" The word "Dad" hit me like a punch to the chest. Emma had been calling me that since she was 6 years old, when Danielle and I got married. I'd legally adopted her when she was 8, after her biological father signed away his rights. For 11 years, I'd been her father in every way that mattered. "It went great, sweetheart. We got the contract." "That's amazing, Mom. Did you hear? Dad got the big contract." Danielle smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's wonderful, honey. I'm so proud of you." Her performance was flawless, but I caught the quick glance she gave her phone when it buzzed. Probably Marcus, wanting to know the outcome. Emma, can you give your mom and me a few minutes? I want to talk to her about the celebration dinner we're planning. Sure. Emma grabbed her backpack. I've got homework anyway, but we should definitely celebrate this weekend. Maybe that new restaurant downtown. After Emma went upstairs, I turned to Danielle. We need to talk. About the celebration? I was thinking, about Marcus. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. What about Marcus? Is everything okay with the partnership? You tell me. You seem to know him pretty well these days. For a moment, we stared at each other across the kitchen counter where we'd shared thousands of meals, discussed Emma's school events, planned our future together, where I'd proposed to her 12 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about, she said finally. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo I'd taken of the MW consulting documents. Danielle Cole Webb? Really? You're already using his last name? Her mask finally slipped. The loving wife disappeared, replaced by someone I barely recognized. How long have you known? Long enough. The question is, how long has this been going on? She sat down heavily in one of our kitchen chairs. 2 years. 2 years. Not 6 months like I'd thought. 2 full years of lying to my face every single day. Since Emma's 15th birthday party? She nodded. Marcus helped with the catering setup, remember? We started talking and things developed. The party where I'd been so grateful for Marcus's help, where I'd told everyone what a great friend and business partner he was, where Emma had blown out her candles and wished for her family to always be happy. What about Emma? Have you thought about what this is going to do to her? Danielle's expression hardened. Emma will be fine. She's not actually your daughter anyway. The words hit me like a physical blow. What did you say? You heard me. Emma's not your biological daughter. You adopted her, but that doesn't make her yours. When this is all over, she'll come with me. I felt the world tilt sideways. You think Emma's going to choose you after she finds out what you've done? Emma doesn't need to know the details. She just needs to know that sometimes marriages don't work out and families have to make difficult choices. And you think she'll choose the mother who destroyed her family over the father who's been there for her every day for 11 years. Something in my voice must have gotten through to her, because for the first time Danielle looked uncertain. Emma loves me. I'm her mother. Being a mother is about more than biology, Danielle. It's about showing up. It's about putting your child's needs before your own wants. It's about not destroying their sense of security for your own selfish desires. She stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. Don't lecture me about being a parent. You have no idea what I've sacrificed. Sacrificed? What exactly have you sacrificed? The comfortable home I've provided, the education I've paid for, the family vacations, the car, the college fund I've been building for Emma since she was 6 years old? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been planning to throw away everything good in Emma's life so you can run off with my business partner and my business. We heard footsteps on the stairs. Emma was coming back down. Mom, Dad, is everything okay? You guys are kind of loud. Danielle and I looked at each other. In that moment, I saw something in her eyes that might have been regret, or maybe just fear of losing control of the narrative. Everything's fine, sweetheart, I said. Your mom and I were just discussing some business stuff related to today's meeting. Emma looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. Are you sure? Because you both look upset. Just grown-up stuff, Danielle said quickly. Nothing for you to worry about. But Emma wasn't buying it. At 17, she was too smart and had lived with us too long to miss the undercurrents in the room. Did something bad happen with the contract? I thought you said it went well. The contract went perfectly, I assured her. Sometimes big business decisions create stress, even when they're good decisions. Emma nodded, but I could see she wasn't convinced. Okay, well, I'm going to Sarah's house to study. We have a chemistry test tomorrow. Take your phone, Danielle said automatically, and be home by 10. I will. Love you both. After Emma left, the kitchen felt like a tomb. Danielle and I stood on opposite sides of the counter that had once represented the heart of our home, now feeling like a barricade. She deserves to know the truth, I said quietly. The truth will destroy her. Your actions are what's destroying her. The truth might actually save her. Danielle's phone buzzed again. This time she ignored it. What happens now? She asked. Now you have a choice. You can end this with Marcus and we can try to work on our marriage, or you can continue with whatever plan you've been cooking up and see how it works out for you. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I'm going to give up everything I've worked for just because you found some papers? I think you're going to realize that what you've worked for isn't worth what you're about to lose." Her phone buzzed again. This time she picked it up. "It's Marcus," she said. "He wants to know if you suspected anything during the meeting. Tell him whatever you want. But understand this, Danielle. Whatever you and Marcus have planned, Emma doesn't deserve to be collateral damage." I walked toward the stairs, then paused. And neither do I. As I headed up to my office, I heard her talking quietly on the phone. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone told me everything I needed to know. The conversation wasn't about calling off their plans. It was about accelerating them, which meant I needed to accelerate mine. I was sitting in my office at 11 that night, trying to figure out my next move, when Emma knocked on the door. "Dad, can I come in?" "Of course, sweetheart." She entered carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate, just like she used to do when she was little and wanted to talk about something important. At 17, Emma had grown into a thoughtful, observant young woman who saw more than most adults gave her credit for. "I made these the way you like them," she said, handing me a mug. "Extra marshmallows." "Thank you. But shouldn't you be asleep? You have that chemistry test tomorrow." "I finished studying an hour ago." She settled into the chair across from my desk. "Dad, what's really going on? And please don't tell me it's just business stress. I've lived in this house for 11 years. I know what business stress looks like, and this isn't it." I studied my stepdaughter's face. She had Danielle's green eyes, but her own determined expression. For 11 years, I'd watched her grow from a confused 6-year-old into this remarkable young woman. She deserved honesty, even if the truth was painful. "Emma, sometimes adults make choices that affect everyone around them. Your mom and I are dealing with some difficult decisions right now. Is Mom having an affair?" The directness of the question caught me off guard. "What makes you ask that?" "Because she's been acting weird for months, taking calls in private, going out more often, always checking her phone. And lately, whenever Uncle Marcus comes up in conversation, she gets this look on her face." Uncle Marcus. Emma had been calling him that since she was little. He'd been at every birthday party, every graduation, every family gathering for 11 years. "How long have you noticed this behavior?" "Since last summer. Remember when we went to that barbecue at the Henderson's house? Mom and Uncle Marcus kept stepping away to talk privately. Sarah Henderson's mom made a comment about it later, asking if they were planning some kind of surprise for you." My mind flashed back to that barbecue. I'd been proud of how well my wife and business partner got along, never imagining that their easy conversation had nothing to do with planning surprises for me. "What else have you noticed?" Emma took a sip of her hot chocolate, choosing her words carefully. 3 weeks ago, I came home early from school because I wasn't feeling well. Mom was in the kitchen talking on the phone. She didn't know I was there, but I heard her say, "I can't keep pretending much longer. This is getting too complicated." The timeline matched what I'd discovered. 3 weeks ago was when Marcus had put his house on the market. "I started paying more attention after that," Emma continued. "Mom's been getting a lot of text messages from someone she has saved in her phone as MW. She always smiles when she reads them, then deletes them. MW. Marcus Webb. "Emma, why are you telling me this?" She looked down at her mug, and for a moment she was 6 years old again, scared and uncertain about her place in the world. "Because you're my dad. Not biologically, but in every way that matters. You're the one who taught me to ride a bike. You're the one who helped with homework every night. You're the one who walked me to my first day of school and showed up to every parent-teacher conference." Her voice started to shake. "When my biological father left, you stepped in. When I had nightmares, you were the one who sat with me until I fell asleep. When kids at school made fun of my last name being different from Mom's, you offered to change yours, so we'd all match." I remembered that conversation. Emma had been 8, and some classmates had been teasing her about having a fake family. I'd offered to legally change my name to hers instead of her changing to mine, just so she'd feel like we belonged together. "You chose to be my father every single day for 11 years, she continued. "And if Mom is making choices that could destroy our family, then I need to choose too." "Emma, I already have chosen, Dad. Whatever happens between you and Mom, I want you to know that you're my family. If she leaves, I want to stay with you." The words hit me harder than any revelation about Danielle's betrayal. This brave, honest 17-year-old was willing to choose the father who'd earned her love over the mother who'd given birth to her. "Sweetheart, your mother loves you. Whatever problems she and I are having, that doesn't change how much she loves you. I know she loves me, but love isn't enough if it comes with lies and betrayal. You taught me that integrity matters more than anything else. That's a lesson Mom seems to have forgotten. I set down my mug and really looked at my daughter. When had she become so wise? There's something else, Emma said quietly. Something I probably should have told you sooner. What is it? Last month, when you were in Denver for that conference, Uncle Marcus came by the house. He said he needed to pick up some papers you'd left in your office. Mom let him in and they went upstairs together. My home office was downstairs, not upstairs. The only thing upstairs was our bedroom. They were up there for almost an hour, Emma continued. When they came back down, Mom's hair was messy and she was wearing different clothes than when he arrived. I felt sick. They'd been in my home, in my bedroom, while Emma was downstairs. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. I was afraid that if I said something, it would make everything worse. You did nothing wrong, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I know, but I should have told you sooner. I was trying to protect everyone, but I realize now that sometimes protecting people means telling them the truth, even when it hurts. Emma was right. She'd learned that lesson better than the adults in her life. Dad, there's one more thing. I made recordings. What kind of recordings? She pulled out her phone. The last 3 times Uncle Marcus came to the house when you weren't here. I recorded their conversations. I hid in the pantry by the kitchen and used my phone. I wasn't sure if I'd ever use them, but I thought maybe someday you'd need to know what they were really saying. My 17-year-old daughter had been conducting her own investigation. Can I hear them? Emma hesitated. They're pretty awful, Dad. Are you sure you want to know? I'm sure. She pulled up the first recording and pressed play. Danielle's voice filled the room, clearer than I'd expected. Arthur signed the Peterson contract today. $2.3 million over 18 months. Perfect, Marcus's voice responded. That gives us the timeline we need. Once the first payment clears, we execute the plan. What about Emma? What about her? She's not your biological daughter anyway. After the divorce, you'll get full custody because Arthur won't want to pay child support for a kid that isn't his. That's not how Arthur thinks about Emma. Then Arthur's an idiot. When this is over, you'll have half his assets, half his business, and none of the responsibilities. Emma will adapt. Emma stopped the recording. There are 2 more, but they're basically the same. Planning how to take everything you've built and leave you with nothing. I sat in silence for a moment, processing what I'd just heard. My wife and business partner discussing my daughter like she was an inconvenient piece of furniture, planning to use the success I'd just achieved as a weapon against me. Emma, I need you to know something. No matter what happens with your mother, you are my daughter, not because I adopted you, but because you chose to be, and I will never, ever let anyone treat you like you don't matter. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. I know, Dad, that's why I made the recordings. Because whatever they're planning, you deserve to have the truth on your side. She was right. For 2 years, I'd been operating at a disadvantage because I didn't know the game was being played. But now, thanks to my daughter's courage and intelligence, I had information they didn't know I possessed. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Okay. What I'm about to do might get complicated. Your mother might get angry with you for helping me. Are you prepared for that? Emma straightened in her chair, and I saw the steel in her spine that would serve her well in life. Dad, I've been preparing for that since I made the first recording. Mom made her choice when she decided to betray our family. Now I'm making mine. Looking at my daughter, I realized that while I'd been losing a wife and a business partner, I'd been gaining something far more valuable. The respect and loyalty of someone who truly understood what family meant. Okay then, I said, let me tell you what we're going to do. The next morning, I called an emergency meeting with our biggest clients. Not with Marcus, just me. I told them I needed to discuss some important changes to our business structure that would affect their projects. By 10 a.m., I was sitting in a conference room with George Peterson, Janet Morrison from Morrison Development, and Tom Bradley from Bradley Properties. These 3 clients represented 70% of our current contracts. Gentlemen, Ms. Morrison, thank you for coming on such short notice. I need to share some information that will affect our working relationship going forward. George Peterson leaned forward. Arthur, if this is about pricing changes for the contract we just signed, it's not about pricing. It's about partnership integrity. I pulled out copies of the MW consulting documents Emma had helped me organize the night before. Clean, professional presentations that laid out exactly what Marcus and Danielle had been planning. Yesterday, I discovered that my business partner has been operating a competing firm using confidential information from our joint business. This includes client lists, pricing strategies, and project specifications that should have been proprietary to our partnership. The silence in the room was deafening. Janet Morrison was the first to speak. "Are you saying Marcus has been bidding against you using inside information?" "I'm saying Marcus formed a separate company 6 months ago with the intent to steal clients and contracts from our partnership. He's been sharing confidential information about your projects with his new business entity." Tom Bradley picked up one of the documents. "This shows bid information for our downtown renovation project, information that was supposed to be confidential between us and your firm." "Exactly. And according to these documents, MW Consulting planned to use that information to underbid us on your next phase." George Peterson's face was turning red. "Arthur, this is serious. Peterson Industries has shared proprietary building specifications with your firm under confidentiality agreements. If Marcus has been compromising that information, he has. And I have proof. I played one of Emma's recordings, the one where Marcus and Danielle discussed using the Peterson contract as their launching pad, and mentioned specific details about Peterson's expansion plans that only Marcus and I should have known." The room erupted. "This is corporate espionage," Janet Morrison said flatly. "We could sue for breach of confidentiality." "You could," I agreed, "but I'm hoping we can resolve this differently." "How?" Tom Bradley demanded. "I'm dissolving the partnership with Marcus effective immediately. I'm forming a new company, Cole Construction Solutions, and I'm prepared to honor all existing contracts under the new business structure with no changes to pricing or timelines." George Peterson studied the documents again. "What about Marcus? What happens to him?" "Marcus will no longer have access to any client information, project specifications, or business relationships. Any competing bids from MW Consulting should be viewed with extreme skepticism, since they're likely based on stolen information." "And your wife?" Janet Morrison asked quietly. "The documents show she's involved in this competing firm." "My wife will no longer have access to any business information of any kind." The meeting lasted 2 more hours. By the end, all 3 clients had agreed to continue their projects with my new company. More importantly, they'd agreed to share this information with other contractors in the area, effectively blacklisting MW Consulting before it could get off the ground. I drove home for lunch, knowing that by now Marcus would have heard about the client meetings. Sure enough, his truck was in my driveway when I arrived. I found him and Danielle in my kitchen, both looking furious. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Marcus stood up as I walked in. "Calling private meetings with our clients, spreading lies about me. I'm protecting my business interests and they're not lies. You can't just dissolve our partnership without my agreement." "Actually, I can. According to our partnership agreement, either partner can terminate the relationship with 30 days' notice. In cases of breach of fiduciary duty, industrial espionage qualifies." Danielle slammed her hand on the counter. "You're destroying everything out of jealousy and spite. I'm protecting what I built from people who were trying to steal it." Marcus's face was getting redder. "You have no proof of anything." I pulled out my phone and played the recording of him and Danielle discussing the Peterson contract and their timeline for taking over my business. The color drained from both their faces. "Where did you get that?" Danielle whispered. "Does it matter? What matters is that your plan is over. MW Consulting is finished before it started. Our clients know exactly what you were trying to do." Marcus stepped toward me, his hands clenched into fists. "You son of a—" "I wouldn't finish that sentence if I were you," I said calmly. "Especially not in my house. This isn't over, Arthur. I'll fight you in court. I'll sue you for defamation for breach of contract. With what money? Your house sale falls through when the buyers discover you're involved in industrial espionage. Your new business has no clients because everyone knows how you operate, and your legal fees are going to eat whatever savings you have left." The truth of it hit him like a physical blow. His whole plan had been based on using my success as a foundation for his betrayal. Without that foundation, he had nothing. "Marcus," I said quietly, "you've been my friend for 15 years. If you walk away now, cut all ties with my wife, and abandon this competing business, I won't pursue legal action against you. You can start over somewhere else with a clean slate. And if I don't, then I'll make sure everyone in the construction industry knows exactly how you operate. Good luck getting work after that." Marcus looked at Danielle, then back at me. I could see him calculating his options and realizing he didn't have any good ones. "This is insane," he muttered. But the fight had gone out of him. "No," I said, "this is justice." Marcus left without another word. Danielle and I stood alone in our kitchen, the space where we'd shared 12 years of marriage now feeling like a battlefield. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now you choose. You can end this with Marcus, move out of the house, and we'll handle the divorce quietly. Or you can keep fighting, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you really are." "You're threatening me. I'm offering you a chance to leave with some dignity intact, but that offer has an expiration date." She stared at me for a long moment. "You've changed, Arthur. You used to be kind. I used to be naive. There's a difference. What about Emma?" "Emma's already made her choice. She's staying with me. She's my daughter. She's 17 years old and smart enough to understand the difference between being someone's biological child and being someone's daughter. You taught her that lesson yourself." Danielle's phone rang. "Marcus." She looked at it, then at me, then declined the call. "I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, I file for divorce and let the courts sort out the details." She walked toward the stairs, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I did love you once." "I know. And I loved who I thought you were. But that person apparently never existed." That evening, Emma and I ordered pizza and sat in my office, planning her college applications. Normal father-daughter activities that felt precious now that I understood how close I'd come to losing them. "Dad, are you okay? You seem calmer than I expected." "You know what, sweetheart, I think I am okay. For the first time in months, I know exactly where I stand. The uncertainty was the worst part." "What do you think Mom will decide?" "I think your mother will do whatever she thinks is best for your mother. But it doesn't matter anymore. We'll be fine, either way." Emma smiled, and I saw the relief in her eyes. For months, she'd been carrying the weight of secrets and divided loyalties. Now she could just be a 17-year-old planning her future. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always. When this is all over, when things settle down, can we take that trip to Europe we've been talking about, just the two of us?" "Absolutely. We'll call it your graduation present." Even though I'm not really your daughter, I looked at this remarkable young woman who'd shown more courage and integrity in the past week than most adults manage in a lifetime. "Emma, you are my daughter in every way that matters, and after this week, I think we both understand what family really means." She nodded, and I saw tears in her eyes, but they were good tears, the kind that come with relief and hope and the knowledge that some things in life are unbreakable. Tomorrow would bring whatever decision Danielle made, but tonight, I was exactly where I belonged, home with my daughter, planning a future built on truth instead of lies. 6 months later, I was standing in the kitchen of my newly renovated house, watching Emma pack her lunch for her senior year of high school. The same kitchen where I'd discovered that text message where my world had fallen apart and then rebuilt itself into something stronger. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, without the weight of deception hanging over every conversation. I'd remodeled the kitchen shortly after the divorce was finalized, not because I needed to erase memories, but because I wanted to create new ones. "Dad, Mrs. Peterson called yesterday," Emma said, closing her backpack. "She wants to know if you're still planning to donate those construction materials to the school's theater renovation." "Of course. Tell her I'll drop them off this weekend." The irony wasn't lost on me. George Peterson's wife had become one of my strongest supporters after word got out about Marcus and Danielle's conspiracy. The business community had rallied around me in ways I never expected, and Cole Construction Solutions was busier than ever. "Oh, and Sarah's mum wants to know if you're bringing anyone to the homecoming dance chaperoning thing next month." I laughed. Emma's not-so-subtle matchmaking efforts had become a family joke. "Tell Sarah's mum I'm perfectly capable of chaperoning alone. I've had enough relationship drama for one lifetime. But Dad, you can't stay single forever. You're only 52. You've got at least 30 good years left." "Who says they won't be good years because I'm single?" Emma rolled her eyes in the way only teenagers can. "Because you're happier when you have someone to take care of. It's just who you are." She wasn't wrong, but I'd learned the difference between taking care of someone who appreciated it and taking care of someone who exploited it. My phone rang. Tom Bradley. "Arthur, I've got a situation. My daughter's getting married next spring, and she wants the reception at that new venue downtown. The one with the glass atrium. They need extensive renovations to meet her vision, and they specifically asked for you. I'm flattered, but wedding venue renovations aren't exactly my specialty. They don't want just any contractor. They want the guy who rebuilt his own life and came out stronger. Apparently word has gotten around about how you handled your situation last year. People respect that. After I hung up, Emma was grinning at me. See? You're like a legend now. The contractor who caught the bad guys and saved his own business. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? Dad, half the women in town think you're a hero. The other half think you're a catch. Either way, you're not staying single much longer. The truth was, I wasn't opposed to meeting someone eventually, but I was in no hurry. The past 6 months had taught me to appreciate the life I'd built with Emma, the business I'd saved, and the peace that came with living honestly. Speaking of which, Emma said, I ran into Mom yesterday. This was the first time in 2 months that Danielle had come up in conversation. After the divorce, she'd moved to the next town over and taken a job at a marketing firm. We'd agreed on minimal contact to avoid any continued drama. How did that go? Weird. She looked smaller somehow, like she'd shrunk. She asked about you. What did you tell her? The truth, that you're doing great, that the business is thriving, that we're happy. Emma paused. She cried a little. I felt an unexpected pang of something. Not regret exactly, but sadness for what could have been if different choices had been made. I think she finally understands what she gave up, Emma continued. But it's too late now, isn't it? That's not for me to decide, sweetheart. Your mother made her choices. Now she has to live with the consequences. Do you ever miss her? It was a fair question, and Emma deserved an honest answer. I miss the person I thought she was, but I've realized that person was largely my own creation. I saw what I wanted to see and ignored the warning signs. What about Marcus? Have you heard anything about him? Marcus had moved to Arizona after his house sale fell through and his legal practice collapsed. Last I'd heard, he was working construction for someone else's company, learning what it felt like to be an employee instead of a partner. He's starting over, which is probably what he needed to do anyway. Emma finished packing her lunch and grabbed her car keys. Yes, I'd bought her a car for her 18th birthday last month, a reliable used Honda that would get her through college safely. Dad, can I tell you something? Always. This year, this whole experience, it was awful while it was happening, but I'm glad it happened. Why? Because it showed me who you really are. Not just the nice guy who married my mom and adopted me, but someone with real strength. Someone who stands up for what's right even when it's hard. She hugged me before heading out to school, and it showed me who I want to be when I grow up. Someone like you. After Emma left, I sat in my quiet kitchen with my coffee, thinking about the text message that had started this whole journey. He works late today. 5 words that had destroyed one life and saved another. My phone buzzed with a text from Janet Morrison. Arthur, we're ready to start phase 2 of the downtown project. Can you meet this afternoon to discuss timeline? Another text from George Peterson. The Homeowners Association approved your bid for the community center renovation. Congratulations. Another from Tom Bradley's daughter. Mr. Cole, thank you for agreeing to work on our venue. We're so excited to work with someone who understands the importance of building something that lasts. Building something that lasts. That had always been my goal in construction and in life. The difference now was that I understood the importance of building on solid foundations. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find a delivery man with a large envelope. Arthur Cole. That's me. Delivery from Emma Cole. I was confused until I opened the envelope and found a framed photo. It was from Emma's graduation party last month, a picture I'd forgotten she'd taken. Emma and me standing in front of the house, both grinning, with a sign in the background that read, Cole Construction Solutions, Building Excellence since 2023. There was a note attached in Emma's handwriting. Dad, this is what real success looks like. Love, your daughter. I hung the picture in my office right next to Emma's acceptance letter to the University of Colorado engineering program. She'd decided to study structural engineering, following in my footsteps but making the path her own. That evening, I was reviewing blueprints for the community center renovation when Emma came home from her part-time job at the local coffee shop. Good day? I asked. Great day. I got my schedule for next month and they're giving me more hours. I should have enough saved for my Europe trip, spending money by Christmas. Our Europe trip. We were finally going to take that father-daughter vacation we'd planned, visiting the great architectural sites of Italy and France. 2 weeks of just us, exploring history and planning Emma's future. Oh, and Dad, Mrs. Patterson from the coffee shop asked me to give you her number. Again. Emma, I'm just saying she's nice, she's single, and she makes amazing scones. You could do worse. Are you trying to get rid of me? Never. But college is next year, and I don't want you to be lonely. I looked at my daughter, this amazing young woman who somehow managed to worry about my happiness while planning her own future. Emma, you know what I've learned this year? What? Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being with people who don't value you. And contentment isn't about having everything you want. It's about appreciating what you have. That's very wise, Dad. But Mrs. Patterson still makes amazing scones. I laughed. Fine. Next time I'm in the coffee shop, I'll make conversation. But no promises beyond that. That's all I ask. Later that night, I stood in my backyard looking at the addition I'd built onto the house. Emma's art studio, where she'd been painting and drawing since she was little. Next year, when she left for college, it would be empty, but it would still be there when she came home for visits, a reminder that this would always be her place in the world. My phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Arthur? It's Marcus. I hadn't heard his voice in 6 months. He sounded different. Older, maybe. Tired. Marcus? How are you? I'm getting by. Arthur, I called to apologize. Not to ask for anything. Not to make excuses. Just to say I'm sorry. I sat down on my back porch steps. I appreciate that. I've been working construction in Phoenix, framing houses for $12 an hour. It's given me a lot of time to think about the choices I made. And I realize I threw away the best friendship I ever had for something that was never going to make me happy anyway. We sat in silence for a moment. 15 years of partnership, gone because of greed and selfishness. Marcus, can I ask you something? Anything. When did it start? The resentment, I mean. When did you start feeling like you deserved more than we'd built together? Another long pause. Honestly, I think it started when you adopted Emma. Watching you become a father overnight, seeing how naturally it came to you, I guess I felt like you had everything and I had nobody. It was a heartbreakingly honest answer. Marcus had never married, never had children. I could understand how watching my family life might have triggered his own sense of emptiness. That doesn't excuse what I did, he continued quickly, but it explains how I let jealousy turn into something ugly. What are you going to do now? Keep working. Keep trying to become someone I can respect again. Maybe someday I'll build something good from scratch the way you did. Marcus, for what it's worth, I hope you do. Really, really. 15 years of friendship can't be erased by 6 months of betrayal. I don't trust you anymore, and I probably never will, but I don't hate you either. Thank you for that, Arthur. And tell Emma I said congratulations on getting into college. She's a good kid. She's the best kid. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't expected. Closure. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. Marcus was living with the consequences of his choices, just like I was living with the benefits of mine. Emma came outside with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. Who was that? Marcus. Seriously. What did he want? To apologize and to congratulate you on college. Emma sat beside me on the steps. Do you think people can really change? I think people can learn from their mistakes if they want to badly enough. Whether they actually change depends on how much they're willing to give up to become better. What about you? Have you changed? I thought about the man I'd been a year ago. Trusting to a fault, conflict avoidant, willing to ignore warning signs to preserve peace. That man would have let Marcus and Danielle walk away with everything, rather than fight for what was right. Yeah, I said, I think I have. For the better, for the stronger. Whether that's better remains to be seen. Emma leaned against my shoulder, and I felt the quiet satisfaction of a life rebuilt on honesty instead of illusion. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new choices, but tonight I was exactly where I belonged, home with my daughter, surrounded by what I'd built with my own hands and protected with my own courage. The text message that had started this journey had been meant to destroy my life. Instead, it had saved it. Sometimes the worst betrayals become the greatest gifts, showing us who we really are when everything else falls away. I was Arthur Cole, father, businessman, builder of things that last. And for the first time in years, that was more than enough.